Hello, my name is Andrew Brooks. I'm here to narrate a short presentation entitled Overcoming Absurdity and Nihilism Through Nonlinear Existentialism. The theories offered in this work continue those given in two previous presentations on YouTube covering topics generated by the paper on the significance of amplified macroscopic probability in the optimization of learning. Existentialism has proved to be a powerful system of thought because of its ability to overcome the inherent and sometimes debilitating abstractness that is often found in many other forms of philosophy. By encompassing the totality of life, existentialism has proven to be a valuable method. However, some existentialist philosophers go towards despair, nihilism, absurdity by allowing themselves to fall back towards the very same abstractness. Such logical impasses cast a shadow on the rest of existentialism. However, as our current discussion will offer, this is not a fatal flaw. It only occurs because such philosophical systems and those who employ them do not consider limitation and needs of interpreting and drawing the necessary conclusions from human neurophysiology. Due to the number of philosophers and their differing views, there is no one set of definition of existentialism. However, there are a few central concepts that help to flesh out its purpose. To begin, existence precedes essence. This means that the person themselves and their life within the world precedes what it is to be a person, their essence. Thought is considered to be primarily irrational, that the person actually makes decisions based on the meaning to themselves rather than by pure reason. Freedom is also considered a cornerstone of existentialism. Freedom is the ability of a person to make choices and not be restricted by their previous experiences or the environment. Along with freedom is the idea of being authentic. To be authentic is to make choices within the ideological framework of the person making them, or in other words, self-consistency. Lastly, there is also the concept of angst or anxiety. This is said to occur because the individual has freedom, and because of this, it causes the person to become anxious due to their choices that they have. Although nonlinear existentialism is a subset of existentialism, the former instrument differs from the latter in that it is based on a series of important biological premises. That in order for a system of thought, or indeed any system invoked to describe or explain a person, it has to consider whether or not such a system could come in to be in a biological organism, could come about through environmental and evolutionary pressures, and whether the system would facilitate the survival and learning of the person. Because nonlinear existentialism is based on neurophysiology, abstractness is limited. Any philosophical elements that occur are directly linked to how such a physical system has evolved to increase the chances of survival, with other elements being secondary byproducts of such a system. Existence, it precedes essence. To begin, and probably the root cause of how abstractness is brought about back into existentialism is the question of existence preceding essence. First has to be asked, what type of existence is being discussed? Since the answer has to be based on the human nervous system, which all would have to agree is a progenitor of the person, then a proper question would be, what type of biological existence precedes essence so that the probability of survival of the biological substrate can be increased? The answer to this question is the starting point of nonlinear existentialism. By having the electromagnetic field being part of the central nervous system binding, then incongruities, then thought are able to occur. All of these processes allow for the increase in survival of the individual. Details of this theoretical system are given in the first two presentations in this series and is in www.chariesoflife.com. Not rational. Based on the evolutionary development of the electromagnetic field within the cerebral cortex, incongruities between electrical patterns within the brain are associated with primary needs and desires occur before thought. Due to such a system, reasoning will only occur for the individual when the incongruities are first experienced and then put in their framework to understand. Thought is able to do this because its form of variance, abstract, or freedom, is different from that which causes the incongruities to occur, fundamental variance, in the first place. However, if the incongruities are too strong, it will hinder thought. Freedom. Freedom is an essential part of nonlinear existentialism. When the generation of variance, either fundamental or abstract, it allows the thoughts and the behavior of the individual not to be circumscribed by previous neurological states of the brain leading up to that moment. This is why this form of existentialism is referred to as nonlinear. The nonlinear element is the aspect that allows for freedom, although it is important to add such neurological states will limit the scope of the variance. Authentic and angst. To be authentic is to stay within the scope of freedom. If this does not occur, then angst is generated. In terms of nonlinear existentialism, another way of putting this is that if the person goes beyond the relative confines of the variance produced by neurological tissue, either by external or internal forces, then larger and larger incongruities are generated. Such incongruities could also be considered angst or anxiety. Here it is important to differ between current incongruities and past or residual incongruities. As explained in the second presentation, Applied and Theoretical Neurophysiology, the effects of the EM field in the brain can be seen as a pattern. This pattern is referred to as the self-line function. It has 8 individual stages. The first stages of this function, one of the primary outcomes is to produce incongruities. Later on in the development of the person, there is a shift from producing the incongruities to reducing the previous or residual incongruities. Vagueness or apparent nothingness is freedom. Please let me explain. In this context, while existentialism and nonlinear existentialism share an important concept, it can be seen why absurdity and nihilism is sometimes a product of the former and not the latter. Given that nonlinear existentialism describes a biologically produced form of variance which is generated to increase survival, it also shows that the apparent nothingness that causes some philosophers to believe in a disconnected world, one that is considered absurd and empty, it is not nothingness, but a definable force that is necessary in order to maintain the species. This force is the electromagnetic field. Such troubled philosophers see an endless freedom that looks like a void. They see emptiness because they are at the stage of development referred to as stage 7 or metaphysical resistance of the self-line function. They only see forward and not the entirety of the function that they are a part of. However, if such philosophers such as Heidegger's view, as stated in Being and Time, that this nothingness is not a stepping stone into nihilism, but essentially the essence of humanity, then one is able to remove the abstractness and then the absurdity that sometimes plagues existentialism. When this is done, they are able to link the metaphysical and the physical, the present and the past, and understand the reason for their apprehensions. I thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please contact me at www.charitiesoflife.com. Also on this website, there are a number of other definitions about nonlinear existentialism. Please take your time, and please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Goodbye.